And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
Right, attention to roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. 8:05 live Eastern time. And, of course, for me, I'm back in the great state of California, 5:05 Pacific time. How's your weekend, brother? We had a long weekend. We had Monday off. Thank God, worked out. We had a long weekend. I was feeling sick all weekend. I'm finally starting to get a little bit better, but I've been hurting. How's your weekend?
Yeah, weekend was good, man. Busy weekend as always, Kids are home this week. Been traveling, so just got back late last night. Yeah, getting ready for Thanksgiving, and you still sound like shit a little bit, but we'll get through it.
That's what we do. We fight through it. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about the first female Jewish police commissioner, non-police officer, billionaire. I mean, I think this is the first of many. We don't hear this, but you and I, we're talking offline about the first of many when it comes to Jessica Tisch that has not been mentioned. Certain demographics have not been mentioned. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it just shows how Eric Adams feels about certain people. I think that it's an unfriendly in New York. I think as much as they say that they support Jewish people in the city, I think, Eric Adams and his mentors have had a long history of actually not supporting Jewish people. I think that was a slap in the face when I watched this, when I continuously hear this is the second woman police commissioner, and I hear nothing about her being the first female Jewish police commissioner. That raised my eyebrows. When I hear a lot about the first black woman of this, the first black woman of that, the first black woman to hold this position, and then I hear nothing about her being the first white woman to hold the position of police commissioner. It just shows the different classes of people currently in the city, the different classes of people currently created throughout this country, with the diversity, equity, and inclusion movement, where it's the furthest thing from diversity, equitable, or inclusive. The thing that we've been saying for a while, and I think a lot of people don't understand, is there was absolutely nothing wrong with equal opportunity. There's absolutely nothing wrong with celebrating people's genders, their culture, their skin color. I have no problem with it, but it should be everybody. It should be inclusive for all. I have no problem with celebrating other people's religion. It should be inclusive for all. And clearly, that's not the narrative they want to paint. I guess it's unfriendly today because there's a lot of protests out in the street, that are against the Jewish state and people and Jewish people. And you could clearly see here that the mayor, the police commissioner, and every newspaper is backing off the fact that she is the first Jewish woman police commissioner.
Absolutely. Our brother Patrick Donahue, spot on, said Tish being the first white Jewish female PC does not fit the narrative that is being promoted. Hence crickets. Absolutely. We heard it's a second female, but we didn't hear the fact that she's the second female. She's actually the first white Jewish female who's not a police officer, who's a billionaire heiress. There's a first of many categories when you put Jessica Tisch together as the PC, a conglomerate of different first of many. I think absolutely that. When we talk about DEI is actually inclusive for certain traits and certain characteristics and certain appearances, but not when it comes to white Jewish females. I mean, listen, we've been hearing about this so-called supposed white supremacy deep within the police department that you and I know does not exist, that we hear from outside advocates that are anti-police, that have this anti-sentiment for police. We hear this supposed deep root of white supremacy, but when it comes to that, we hear about male whites, old male, pale, stale whites. But we didn't hear anything about white females, but yet we're not hearing her touted as being, hey, look, this is our first female white Jewish police commissioner. We don't hear that. We don't hear it at all. So we know DEI is only inclusive for a majority, not all, for a certain a certain type that they want to fit. Again, we won't hear it. Maybe after this podcast, but I doubt it.
No, you're not going to hear about it. They're not going to talk about it. So yeah, let's talk about the 500-pound elephant in the room, right? So I think Scooch brings it up. First one, pathetic. Jessica Tisch isn't qualified to run the Lyndhurst, New Jersey Police Department. So again, we've spoken about this on our earlier episodes. We've spoken about this in other news outlets and podcasts. I believe that this appointment is purely political. There is nothing in Jessica Tisch's background that says she should be the police commissioner. Absolutely nothing. Not her managerial skills, not anything. Has she proven them? Yes. But even in those positions, she would have never attained them if this was not a political positioning for the mayors of that ran the city in the past. She would have never been appointed to those positions to get to run them. So yes, she's well educated. Yes, she's received educations like none of us could have received due to the wealth of her family and the political connections of her family. Was she a great manager? Yeah, I mean, she made mistakes, but I think overall she was a good manager. Does not qualify her to be the police commissioner whatsoever. However, I'm going to say it again. I love this appointment. I think potentially this is going to be Eric Adams' best appointment.
For years, we've had Harvard grads, we've had grads from Yale, different Ivy League universities that take a different path and decide they want to be cops. Just people that was always a deep-rooted wish in their life. And that's the path they wanted to take. Plenty of times we've had Harvard grads become police officers because they just want to be a cop. That's something they wanted. And it's been a mixed bag. I'm sure you know, John, you've been around by some of these people. Academics, intellects, extremely smart, but it doesn't make them good cops. Some of them turned out to be good cops, and some of them were terrible cops. And you said, wow. I said to myself, you probably said the same thing. I can't believe these people are Harvard grads because they could barely tie their shoes together. They were terrible cops. But I guess when it comes to Jessica Tisch, it doesn't matter either. I think it really waters down what it is to become a cop. Now, is she intelligent? Absolutely. Is she a Harvard grad? Yes. At the same token, I agree with you. I think this appointment is completely political. There's many people out there with managerial skills, intelligence, they're academics, but I wouldn't make them the police commissioner. And it really downplays what it is to become a cop. And we hear Kelly, we hear Bratton, and we hear different people toting this right now, saying how great this appointment is. And you have to ask yourself, what benefit is for them at this point? What could they be on the receiving end? What benefit for them to be so excited about it? Now, if they were to say, hey, listen, she's extremely intelligent. She comes from a prominent family. She has a lot of exposure when it comes to politics. She has the right connections. She has great managerial skills. She's going to need a lot of assistance when it comes to the police side of things. Hopefully she finds the right people to help her so that she could be successful. If there was an honest conversation like that, but that's not what we're hearing. We're just hearing how great this appointment is, and it really downplays what it is to be in the law enforcement profession.
Yeah. Peretta says, I can't find you guys on Rumble. What happened? We're on there at the Finest Unfiltered. We're live right now. I can see it up. We're streaming there as we speak. So, yeah, but so this was the swearing in ceremony. I think we should watch some of it. I think, I like seeing this new Eric MAGA, Make America Great Adams again. This is it's probably the mayor, I think, of the New Yorkers that voted for him thought they were going to get. They thought they were going to get a moderate, but now he's here. So let's listen to the swearing in ceremony. We'll break that down, and then we'll listen to her speech. I agree. I think I don't think this is a DEI appointment at all. I think that this is a politically motivated, politically driven appointment by Eric Adams to save his own skin, to further position himself for another run at mayor. And he just might get it with, we just saw Damian Williams announce his resignation, right? At, I think December 13th. at 11:59 p.m. hours. Christmas starts early for Eric Adams, and Damian Williams puts in his resignation papers. So he's potentially getting another chance to run for mayor. He's potentially going to walk away from these indictments. These cases might fall by the wayside. So yeah, I'm not on the DEI end of it all. Let's watch the swearing in.
And good morning. On behalf of Mayor Adams, I'd like to welcome everyone to One Police Plaza for the swearing-in ceremony of the 48th Police Commissioner of the City of New York. So to begin, it is my honor to introduce the Mayor of the City of New York, the Honorable Eric Adams.
You know, this moment and the moments when we bring on police commissioners often reflect on my only son, Jordan. I love Jordan so much. And oftentimes, his teachers will often say I was an overbearing dad. When Jordan went to college for his first time, I walked around the entire campus. I wanted to see where he slept. I wanted to find out the students that were there. It was the first time he ever left home in the capacity that he did. I would often visit and just find out what was going on. And they just got so annoyed that this man was always present. That's how I feel about the NYPD. I spent 22 years of my life here, and I saw things that I loved. I saw things that I was concerned about. I remember my time in the police academy, the level of uncertainty. I remember the moments that I had, and even my chief advisor's husband, Glenn Martin, who he and I came through the academy together. And I said one day, if I become the mayor of the city of New York, I would do everything possible, not only to use the agency to make this city a safe city for those of us who came out during '84. We saw crack and crime everywhere. We saw people afraid to live in their streets. There were drills in many communities when you hear something that sounded like a gunshot. It even can be a car that backfired. Your children had to learn how to fall to the ground. Young people no longer slept in their beds. They slept on the floor because of the drive-bys and bullets piercing windows. You saw crack vials everywhere. Our subway system was filled with graffiti and crime and homelessness. And not until Bill Bratton came on board and realized we could make a real impact on public safety did we start to turn the corner and change not only what we did in the city, but it cascaded throughout the entire country. At that time, I realized the power of a police commissioner. A police commissioner does more than keep us safe. It is the economic stimulus package that allows businesses to return and communities to thrive and homeowners to feel as though the city belonged to them again. There is no other role in this city that has such a drastic impact in the quality of life of a city than the police commissioner. That is the title. That is the role. And if it's done correctly and fairly, it can bridge the gap between communities and make people believe again in what's possible. The prerequisite to prosperity is public safety.
What if feeding your dog fresh whole foods was
Oh, sorry about that. So what do you think so far about his speech?
First of all, our friends and listeners on the podcast are spot on. Spot on. A couple people here, made jokes about the fact that he's called honorable. And I was thinking the same thing, We're referring to him as honorable, the honorable mayor. I mean, it's kind of, we use this term so loosely. I mean, how is he honorable? He's under indictment right now. He's the mayor of New York City. He's just under indictment. He's had more people in his administration step down that are under indictment themselves. This is now the fourth police commissioner being appointed under Mayor Eric Adams. To call him honorable is just a big joke. But Ray John is spot on. This is where it's the political appointment right here. His speech indicates the politics when it comes to this appointment of how everyone is starting to weave together. Ray John, I don't know who you are, brother. New friend and listen to podcast. Spot on. Throwing Bratton in to bolster her credibility. Absolutely. He weaved Bratton into this because Bratton is the connection to Tish. And Bratton is going to be the advisor for Tish, in my belief, behind closed doors. This is completely political, which is why Bratton is in her cheering section, because I'm sure Bratton is at the receiving end of the self-serving benefit when it comes to this. This is completely political. In what aspect is she qualified to run the New York City Police Department? I mean, I can understand if she was to lead a small department and build her way up. She was never a law enforcement officer herself. But to just jump and become the police commissioner for the New York City Police Department is a slap in the face to every police officer, every police commissioner prior, every predecessor that ever met the job with success. Not the past ones we've had, but anyone that's ever met it with success. This is a complete joke. It's just a slap in everyone's face. What an insult.
Yeah, so he just confused me because I thought that Rudy Giuliani's term wasn't that good. I thought that's what he said. I thought he said that everyone praises Rudy Giuliani, but it wasn't, he really didn't bring down crime. I could have swore I remember him saying that. So now he's praising Bill Bratton and he's praising broken windows, policing, something that he demonized. He's praising stop, question, frisk. He sounds like Eric Dem to me. I don't know who was just speaking. He doesn't sound like Eric Adams to me. He sounds like a big fan of Ray Kelly to me. He sounds like a big fan of intrusive police work to me. Something he never did, by the way. So I mean, and I hear what you people saying, and I agree with you. And I'll never say this isn't political. I don't care. This is purely political. Jessica Tisch has absolutely no business being here. But the reason I love it is that I love her appointment is because of her connections, because you clearly see in the audience. John Miller was in the audience, former deputy commissioner, who also wasn't a cop, but is beloved by the rank and file of the NYPD, right? Rightfully so. He did a great job. He was an investigative reporter turned deputy commissioner. I could say the same thing about him. He had no business being in the NYPD, but really wouldn't be accurate because he did a great job. Then you see Bill Bratton. You see Ray Kelly. You see who, in my opinion, was the weakest police commissioner, Dermot Shea. There. I do think the man is very smart. I just don't think he had a spine. Maybe he's more suited to consult in the background. Also in attendance at that hearing was Chief Lori Pollock, strong woman chief. Chief Joan Jaffe, strong woman chief. And I'm going to mangle the girl's name, but also a great chief. The chief that was up in Manhattan North. Short blonde hair. I think it's Chief Riley, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that who I'm talking about?
Chantel?
No,
or Riley.
I think it's Chief Riley. We'll find out. But she's going to have a lot of advisors. She's going to have a lot of people around her to help her out. So I like the appointment, but when I listen to Eric Adams' speech, he tries to play off the fact that she's his fourth appointee by saying he's an overbearing parent. But you didn't get rid of Jordan 4 times and get 4 different kids. So that's he's trying to say what reason he's so involved in the New York City Police Department is because he loves it so much. Shocker, because I could have never told from your career. I could have never told from the rhetoric you spoke when you were a borough president, when you were a state senator, when you were in charge of 100 blacks in law enforcement. And I did hear it while he was running for mayor. I heard some of it, like, because he was working on the Law and Order ticket. But yeah, he completely contradicting his entire career here. But it's kind of why I like her appointment is I think that he's had such a heavy hand in the police department. Someone on here said, it should have been Joe Fox. Oh, it should have been this guy. It should have been that guy. I don't think anyone's going to be able to maneuver the way that Jessica Tisch is going to be able to maneuver under Eric Adams. I just don't. I don't. Do you think that there's somebody else that Eric Adams would give more reign to than Jessica Tisch?
No, I don't think it's going to be Adams giving reign to Tish. It's going to be Tish giving reign to Adams, actually giving him the ability to actually move around because she's in a position of power. And the only reason that she's in this position is because of the political benefit. You and I both know that her family is extreme wealth. Our family donated $40 million to Mount Sinai for the Tish Cancer Institute. That family is the longtime history of wealth. Her father is the CEO of Lowe's. I mean, they have extreme political connections. They donated a lot of money to the Adams campaign, which we went over. And I'm sure he sees moving forward, this is the type of backing he's going to need if he's going to make it to re-election. If he makes it through this indictment, and he's going to go for re-election, he's already outs himself and ostracized himself for the Democrats. He's going to need himself people that can back him up so that he can make that political campaign for a second run, which would be the Tish family. So I think Tish is going to be the one who's going to allow him to maneuver. She's an extreme position of power. The political connections that she has is completely political. And at this point, I don't think Eric Adams cares. I think personally he's going to have a problem with the fact he'll have to take a step back. She's going to be in a position of power, but it's to his benefit for re-election, and that's where I see this path going. I see it to his benefit.
So Darwish is on X right now, former retired New York State police officer. What's up, my brother? He says she is on Fox right now supporting and defending illegal immigrants. That's all you need to know about the liberal agenda. So we're going to speak about that, right? We're definitely going to get into that. Like, what's her stance going to be on Sanctuary City? We'll definitely get into that later on. But for right now, let's get back onto the swearing-in ceremony. So let's finish up on Adams. Oh. All right.
And I'm clear and I'm unwavering. I will push back against anyone who believes we should allow those that do harmful things to good people to reign in our city. That cannot happen. And the message is clear. We will not send our men and women into harm's way and then abandon them when they take action. The role of the police commissioner.
Do you remember him standing up for Juan Perez? Because I don't.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Where was he to stand up for Juan Perez? Where was he to stand up for Officer Provenzano? Where was he to stand up for Officer Victoria, who's now under indictment in the 4-4 precinct? Where was he to stand up for that white police officer when the white police officer was suspended because of Eric Adams? Because Eric Adams said that his actions did not look good. If anybody remembers, a white police officer was punched repeatedly by a female youth, a black youth in Staten Island. He was punched repeatedly. He took action, punched back, put him in cuffs, and he was suspended because Eric Adams said it didn't look good. So if any cops out there believe that he's supporting you, think again.
Yeah. 100%. What did he say here? He said that we will not send our officers into harm's way and then leave them out there and not support them. That's exactly what he's done his whole time. Pat Donahue says Bratton is rumored to be a closed-door confidant advisor Adams. 100%. I believe he is. You see him praise Adams regardless. Not one of these people have spoken out about the corruption scandal that broke in the NYPD. It's my contention that Eric Adams and his appointment absolutely destroyed the reputation of the NYPD. They've been nothing but an embarrassment. So I could 100% see that Bratton's been in the background. However, Adams is clearly not taking his advice. I don't believe he took his advice at all on anything. Maybe on some minor things in the background, but nothing that matters, nothing that New Yorkers matter, nothing that matters to public safety. And he clearly has not stood up for cops at all. He's given some fiery speeches. That's about it. Let's go further.
Is to lead from the front. And this is my baby. This is my Jordan. And I'm not turning my Jordan over to anyone that does not understand how imperative it is we give support to the people who do the job and require those who put the shield on their chest and wear the uniform to do it with the dignity and respect and nobility that is deserving of a police department, the largest and most important police department on the globe, the NYPD. The NYPD. And we've accomplished something historical that should not be ignored. Took 110 mayors before we realized that a woman could lead the department under Commissioner Sewell. And now we're continuing that with the second woman leading the department. And I needed a battle-tested leader, someone that understands what it is to lead. 17 years in government, 12 years in the New York City Police Department. We know how to fight crime. Don't get it wrong. 10 straight months of reducing crime. Came into the department with a 40%, into the city as the mayor with a 40% increase in crime, and morale was low. We were not paying our police officers the salary that they deserve. Under Pat Lynch and the PBA, we were able to give them the salary so we didn't hemorrhage our officers to go to other municipalities. They would stay here to protect the people of this city. We know how to bring down crime. We know how to remove guns off our streets. We know how to go after the ghost cars. We know how to protect New Yorkers. Over 3,000 protests in the city.
What do you think about what he's saying? I'm having a hard time listening to this.
I tell you what, he's a hell of a salesman, because he took every failure and manipulated to sound like a success, right? First of all, he's saying, Drone Ranger, shout out to you, battle tested. When did trash garbage ever riot or terrorist attack? I mean, for him to say that she's battle tested, it's great how he comes up with these ideas, but he didn't make every failure sound like a success. Ghost cars, we're going after those ghost cars. Failed to mention that numerous people have lost their lives because of these vehicle pursuits. He talks about, making all these gun arrests. Yeah, which means there's more gun violence out there. He talks about, crime was down. Yeah, crime was down for 10 months. But what he failed to mention is that crime is still significantly up since his tenure as mayor. Yeah, I use this analogy all the time. I said, if you gain 200 pounds and then in that next year you lose 50 pounds, well, guess what? You're still 150 pounds overweight. And that's what's going on with Eric Adams. But to say that Jessica Tisch has been battle tested, again, is an insult to every police officer that has their boots on the ground right now. He says that he will not abandon them, that he cares about them. The police officers are in a worse predicament than they've ever been, right? Right now, they're exhausted, they're overworked, they're working constant overtime to the point that they don't want it. They're burning the candle on both ends. The police officers are so exhausted. They don't know who's in charge of the police department right now. They don't know if it's Kaz Daughtry, Tariq Shepard, Sean Shell. Is it a combination of all three? Is it the PC? Is it the first step? They have no idea who's in charge. We're at the fourth police commissioner under his tenure. And he said it took 110 years for mayors to figure out that it was a female police officer that could run the department. And that was an epic fail because they never allowed her to run the department. And she resigned after 18 months. If it was such a success, she would still be the commissioner. And now we're on to the second female, but we forgot to mention the first white female Jewish billionaire commissioner. Again, Eric Adams is a salesman that turned every failure and made it sound like a success, but we know the truth.
Yeah, no, 100%. And Rob corrected me. It was Kathy Riley. Kathy Riley was the chief. So, yeah, we're talking about strong chiefs. Michael Freed says that Holmes was there as well. I was talking about strong chiefs. So that whole thing's ridiculous. That's the narrative that was painted all yesterday. If you look at Eric Adams' tweets, if you look at who's that little kid that follows him around with the slick back hair, his press secretary, Fabian Levy, he was battle tested. Battle started yesterday. We're going to see. The test has yet to begun. We're going to see where she stands. Darwish brought it up already. This is going to be an issue where we're going to know right away if she's going to be good or bad for New York City. And good or bad for the New York City Police Department, because if she's going to put the New York City Police Department at odds with the federal government and Homeland Security, and like I said, we'll get into that, then she could potentially continue on the downward progression that we've been seeing from this department. So, but yeah, I love what you said, Eric, because that's exactly it. Like, he literally took every single one of his failures that are still his failures, by the way, and making like he solved them, right? He's talking about morale. We solved it. No, guy, that's getting worse. People are leaving at a higher rate, So So yeah, it was funny. So let's go a little further into this.
People told us we could not have the Israeli parade. I said, like hell, we won't. New York don't run from crime. We fight crime. And this will be the safest big city, not only in America, but across the globe. We know how to keep people safe, but we must turn the corner, must bring the innovation in the thought processing that Commissioner Tish brought during her first time here, and what she brought into DSNY. A good manager can manage anywhere. And I push back on anyone that believes she had to wear a police uniform to take the police department to the next direction. She can wear any uniform and accomplish the task. She is a well battle-tested leader.
Before we go further, good managers can manage anywhere. What do you say?
Well, I said before, right? I believe that for the majority of professions, that is true, right? You don't have to actually know the technicality of the position you're in to be a good leader. But I think there is an exception when it comes to policing, firefighting, military. You had to have faced extreme adversity. You've actually had to face danger yourself to be in a position of leadership when it comes to a profession where you face danger. I think that's where the exception changes. You know, if you're a manager and you manage Walmart, could you manage Home Depot? Yeah. Could you manage a Macy's, another organization? Yes. But could you manage a police department, military, firefighting? Something completely different. When you're out there facing danger, it changes the animal completely. I want to give a shout out to Charlie Mack Reviews, Precious Metals. Shout out to you. Thank you for donating coffee and donuts to the podcast. He said, I don't get it. If she was doing a good job in sanitation, why bring her to the NYPD? Two very different departments. Absolutely. If it's such a success, why would you want to take her out of there? But because he's taking her out of there because it's the benefit to Eric Adams. Eric Adams is a very precarious position right now. He has to change his complete stance right now. He has to become MAGA Eric, which he did. He's doing a great job of twisting every failure, twisting everything he does pre-indictment Eric Adams to be this post-indictment Eric Adams because it's beneficial for him so that he can get a second term. He needs Jessica Tisch and he needs his family to back him, and that's what this is about. We all know it. We all absolutely know, and Bratton knows it, and everyone else knows it, and they see the political benefit to themselves.
So, I mean, I agree. I think I agree with him when he says good managers can manage anywhere. I do. I hear what you're saying, though, about, being inexperienced. But I think a good leader could put the people around them to supplement the experience that they're lacking. Ed Caban served 30 years in the NYPD. I thought he was horrible as the police commissioner. I thought he was absolutely terrible as the police commissioner. I don't think his experience dictated that he should be the first deputy commissioner, nor the police commissioner. I don't think that Tanya Gansilla as the first step has done anything other than run marathons where I would place her in the police commissioner. She's been a cop, so I think that to put her in the position, I think I wouldn't support it either. To put Tariq Shepard in the position, he's been a cop, right? He's been a cop, whatever, 18 years, whatever. Has he really been a cop? Eric Adams was a cop. Has he really been a cop? I don't know, man. Kaz Daughtry was a cop. Has he really been a cop? So I mean, it's definitely a conversation. She's not the first non-cop to lead the department. It's definitely a conversation. I'm telling you, I think out of everything, I know why he did it. He did it for his own personal benefit. I think it could potentially be a good appointment, though. I do think it could be potentially a good appointment for the rank and file. And I think so because I think she is going to get more leeway to run this agency than Caban had. than Keishat Sewell had, than anybody else that you could put in this position, because she has one ability that the rest of them don't have. She could tell Eric Adams where to go. And he, at this point, in my opinion, there's nothing he could do about it. Again, I don't know that she'll do that. I don't know that she just doesn't fall back to it, but she could potentially be better than any of his commissioners. And that's why I say that, and again, I think when we look at the police commissioner, I think it's bigger than just leading the men and women in the New York City Police Department. I think you really are a political figurehead at that point, and I think that you're someone that needs to understand the overall health and well-being of the city. And again, I don't think most cops are suited to run that, to be in that position. So that's the only thing I got to say about that. I mean,
so it actually highlights what I've been saying for years, right? I do believe what he's saying to a point, that if you're a leader, you can lead pretty much anything, right? Even if you're in the military, if you're an officer, you don't have to know trucks to actually be in charge of that particular area, right? You don't have to actually be an infantryman to be in charge of infantry. But you have to at least have some foundational understanding of the military and at least have your feet on the ground. And the same thing should go for policing. So what this does highlight, though, is that the people at the upper echelon right now of the New York City Police Department are not there because of good leadership. They're there because of nepotism, which is why we see extreme failures right now through our past police commissioners. Ed Caban was it was an abomination. He was, until Tom Donilon, the most insignificant police commissioner. But again, it also highlights what I've been saying for years, is there's no leadership training for the supervisors, the supervisory path within the police department. It's a failed operation. We have some intelligent people. They pass these tests, but they don't get managerial and leadership experience and leadership training. When you go through BMOC, which is your basic module officer course to become a sergeant, lieutenant, captain within the police department, there's no actual leadership training. It's just a seminar. That's why I've always been saying for years, there should be something worked out, maybe with West Point or another military base, something where they can work out, where you would go for 2-3 weeks and actually learn leadership. It's not, you don't need to learn the seminars, the technicalities. You need to actually just learn leadership, so that way you have people that rise to the ranks and know how to manage people and know how to lead. And that's where the epic fail comes. So again, if we compare Jessica Tisch to the prior commissioners, yeah, she's absolutely more effective. She has more managerial skills, but it doesn't say much for the police department. We should have someone that faced adversity and has the leadership skills. We need someone's hybrid in that position. Stuck in the system, new friend that listens to the podcast, haven't heard the name before. Thank you so much for being on here. Shout out to you. $10 in a podcast, coffee and donuts. He said you guys are making sense. At the end of the day, we are all stuck in the system. Enjoy the coffee. Yes, we are stuck in the system. We appreciate it. But sometimes we see within the past year or two, extreme amount of nepotism. But when it comes to this appointment, it's political. And it could create more nepotism for Eric Adams and his cronies.
Yeah. So somebody asked on here, will the Shamran Society now be the lead society in the NYPD, and we see the appointments out of there? I'm going to say no. I think she's going to be pretty fair. I think that she supported workers in her style in ITB before. She didn't really care your background, your faith, what you believe. She was pretty efficient when she was running ITB. Like I said, I dealt with her unit. I dealt with a lot of people in her unit prior and then after, and I thought it was better run after she came in than prior to her being there. And people that moved ahead moved ahead from their work. So I don't think you're going to see as much nepotism as we've been seeing. So let's see what happens, though. Let's see what happens with that. Let's finish Adam's speech up, and then we'll hear from her, and we'll move on. A lot of stuff happening in the police department. I think we got to get to. So let's get through this.
And you know, I wish I could say this is her day only, but it's more than her day. It's the Tish family, the legacy, just good New Yorkers and great Americans. You have contributed so much to our city and country. You have given back in your benevolence. You fought against hate across the entire globe. You produced an amazing daughter, granddaughter, and aunt, and your sons and nephews should be proud of you on what this family has done. And I thought hard and long. There were many people who wanted to have this prestigious job. There's something special about being a police commissioner in the city of New York. But when I looked over not only her credentials, I looked over the resume of the Tish family, and I realized who I was getting. And I'm so pleased and honored to have you as the next police commissioner of the city of New York. It means so much to all of us that you have decided to take upon this task as we move our police department into the next level and deeper into the century. And once again, show why this is New York City finest. And you are now the leader of the finest. Thank you so much for this position. Let me swear you in to this title.
So I got a question for you, Eric. Did she call him for the position, or do you think he called her for the position?
You know, that's exactly what I was thinking, right? It's exactly what we've been saying, though. Who's actually becoming the commissioner? Is it Jessica Tisch or Jessica Tisch family? So I think the family said, Eric, hey, listen, why don't you put our daughter in right now? We'll give you some money. When it comes time to re-election, we know you're on the outs right now. You're being ostracized by the Democrats. We'll hook you up. Make our daughter the police commissioner. That's the way it appears to me. What do you think, John?
I'm thinking that he reached out to her, dude. That's my opinion. I think he reached out to her. I think it took some convincing to get her to be the police commissioner. You know, the way he just praised the family, I'm thinking he reached out to her. And I'm thinking, like I said, I think it was a genius move on his part. I think politically, I think Eric Adams, honestly, he had a career in marketing without knowing it. He's a great marketer. I think that he's smart. I think politically, he really knows how to maneuver. If I ever run for mayor, Eric Adams is going to be one of my advisors. It's not going to be because I'm going to see how to give my friends contracts and how to make my friends rich or take money out of the city or how to disgrace the police department. I just want to see how his brain works, because I don't think she reached out to him. I think he reached out to her. That's my opinion. I think she was probably so focused on the sanitation department and the work she was doing there. I don't think she was saying, oh, I want to be the police commissioner. I could be wrong. It's just my opinion, but I don't know. That's just what I see.
I'm not sure who called who, but it appears to me, I think that the conversation was with the family. There's a lot of subliminal messages that came in that speech. I think that his conversation was with the family. Like, hey, listen, you know, whether it was the family that contacted him or he contacted the family, you know what, why don't you put my daughter in? We'll take care of you. I think that's really the conversation going on behind closed doors. Obviously, we don't know, but I think it's funny. John, you always say that Adams is a moron, but I wouldn't say he's a genius, right? But he's a political genius. There's a complete difference. He knows how to play the game. This guy could sell you a car without wheels, and you'll believe it's going to be a running car. He makes you believe that his failures are a success. The way he twists things, manipulates them, the subliminal messages are unmatched. He's unmatched by his peers when it comes to his political savviness. So, you know, I think that there's definitely a conversation with the family and say, listen, put our daughter in there, because he kind of alluded to it when he said the family. So yeah. That's my impression.
No, I'm telling you, I think he is a genius in his own right, and I don't mean like where he's inventing things. I don't mean that he's an academic genius. I don't mean that he's a savant, but like the way he maneuvers socially. His social emotional intelligence is extremely high. He knows how to manipulate people. I believe it comes, and you see that a lot from, street guys that grew up poor. They have a really high level of social emotional intelligence. They know how to manipulate people. They know how to get into people. They know how to pull on people's heartstrings. They know how to awaken you, how to make you mad, how to make you happy, how to make you feel comfortable. They know all of it. And I think that Eric Adams has that skill. I think he's very, and he knows how to project it on stage. He knows how to project it across a large audience where, most people that are good at that are only good in one-on-one situations or in person. Eric Adams knows how to project and get that message out. I'm telling you, I think he's really smart at that. I think that's him. I think it's an innate ability that he has. Scooch brings up, there's still no comment on Tish's appointment from any of the Democratic candidates for New York City mayor. That's wild to me, man. It's wild to me. And that shows me how powerful the Tish family is. And they're afraid to comment. They literally have knocked Eric. If the sun comes up, when the sun comes up in the morning, they're like, you see that? That's Eric Adams' fault. He did that. They don't know what's wrong with it or anything, but they're blaming Eric Adams for everything. And they can't hone in on this is the 4th police commissioner, that there's no consistency in the NYPD. There's no morale. Crime continues to rise. And he just keeps flipping over who the police commissioner is. He can't hold on to one person. That's wild to me, man. That shows you they're afraid.
100% they're afraid. As I was saying before, he's saying how much a success it is that they had the first female police commissioner to run the police department. What he forgot to mention is that, and failed to mention, is that she's no longer the police commissioner, and she didn't last his entire tenure, that she left and resigned after 18 months, which is really questionable. And we're not getting to the real conversation of it. Here is Tom. Shout out to you. Coffee and donuts. Here we go. $4.99 to the podcast. Adams reached out to her so the real estate Tish family can reach out to the Trump real estate family for a pardon in exchange for a 5-year bid as PC. That is definitely possible. I tell you what, that's the comment of the day. I want to read that again. Tom, shout out to you. Listen to this, friends, and listen to the podcast. Adams reached out to her so the real estate Tish family can reach out to the Trump real estate family for a pardon in exchange for a 5-year bid as PC. That is very possible. And if that's the case, it's brilliant on behalf of Eric Adams as a political move. I tell you what, if politics was chess, he would be a phenomenal chess player. He really knows how to make these moves. At Oliver said it right here. At Oliver91, chess moves. Absolutely. We're on the same path here, thinking the same way. Absolutely great chess move. Completely political. Whether Adams reach out to the family or family happen to reach out to Adams, say, hey, you're looking for somebody. Either way, this is all political behind closed doors. Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. No one's saying the reality. You're touting the fact that you had the first female police commissioner, but she's not the police commissioner anymore. You had 2 after that, one more insignificant than the other, and now Jessica Tisch is here. So if we compare Jessica Tisch to the others, yeah, you know what? On paper, she looks like your best candidate. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So let's hear what Jessica Tisch had to say. Is the volume up? So here's Jessica Tisch, 48th Police Commissioner.
Oh. I remember the first time that I took that oath. It was a very different experience. October 1st, 2008, my first day in One Police Plaza. I was in a dark conference room. Well, actually, conference room is quite generous. It was really an oversized closet with a giant refrigerator and a small rectangular table that sat 6 in the candidate processing unit of the Personnel Bureau. The name says it all. I really felt like I was being processed. Reams of outrageously repetitive paperwork, so many rules, only a black pen. God forbid you dare use a blue pen. Lots of waiting, more paperwork, and then more waiting. Then a lecture on pension plans. At the end of the day, in walks who I would later learn to be Arnold Wexler, the then vaunted Assistant Commissioner of the Employee Management Division. At the time, the table was littered with remnants of our 1-hour lunch break. Commissioner directed myself and the 2 others being processed to rise at our seats, raise our right hands, and repeat after him. And we did. I'll be honest, looking back, fresh out of school, I heard and said the words and I respected them. But over time, I have certainly gained a deeper understanding of their import. To hereby pledge and declare, to faithfully discharge the duties of. For 17 years, I can say without reservation that I have done my best. I have tried my hardest, and I have asked others to do the same on behalf of the people of this city. Sometimes it's good enough. Sometimes there are even moments of greatness. Other times you miss. But when you miss, you wake up the next day and you go after it even harder. And along the way, you learn, you grow, you love. And without realizing it, you feel in your bones what it is to pledge and declare, what it is to faithfully discharge the duties of. I felt the weight of the responsibility of that oath many times, but never more than right here and right now. That's why this morning I showed up at the Department of Sanitation and I walked over here to One Police Plaza with our sanitation chiefs. For me, they represent the thousands of public servants at every level: police officers, sanitation workers, computer associates software, certified land WAN administrators, PAAs, inspectors, executive agency councils, PCTs, administrative staff analysts, to name just a few, who have worked with me on this charmed journey to care for our neighborhoods. Of the thousands whom I have had the privilege to work with, I need to call out a few people. As I was coming up in the department, there were 4 women who served as role models that are here today. These 3-star chiefs took a sledgehammer to the glass ceiling at the New York City Police Department before my eyes. Chief Joanne Jaffe, Chief Kathleen O'Reilly, Chief Lori Pollock, and Chief Juanita Holmes. Thank you, chiefs. I promise to do for other women in this department what you did for me. We are joined today by former Police Commissioner Dermot Shea. Dermot, I really enjoyed sparring with you. You are a worthy adversary, and I am certain that the way you pushed me, both when you were Chief of Detectives and when you were Chief of Crime Control Strategies, led to better outcomes for our cops. We are also joined today by 2 absolute giants in the law enforcement profession, former police commissioners Ray Kelly and Bill Bratton. I have been blessed in my life to have access to the finest education anyone could dream of, but no schooling could ever compare to the opportunity to learn directly from these extraordinary men. Thank you both so much. To Mayor Adams, you can't ask for a finer boss. You have trusted my judgment, given me incredible latitude and, yes, independence to be thoughtful and creative. You have pushed me to be bold when I needed pushing, and you threw your full support behind initiatives and programs that absolutely destroyed the unsatisfactory status quo, which others would have seen as too politically hot to handle. That is emphatically what this city needs: a courageous leader. To the men and women of the NYPD, my greatest hope is that together we will return this noble undertaking, this job of high moral purpose, to a time and a place where you want your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews to follow in your footsteps and become police officers. And finally, to the city that I serve. The police exist to eliminate fear and disorder. Your cops, like generations before them, nobly put their lives on the line each and every time they put on that uniform to protect you and your families. And they do a damn good job of it. We will continue to do that most important foundational work to make you safe, to make you feel safe, and to improve your quality of life across the city. Today, as I take this oath that generations of police officers have taken before me, in the presence of my two sons, Larry and Harry, my family, my coworkers, my friends, with my grandfather's police chaplain shield and on my grandmother's Bible, I solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the position of Police Commissioner of the City of New York to the very best of my abilities, just as I have done as Sanitation Commissioner, as DUA Commissioner, as Deputy Commissioner of Information Technology, as Counsel to the Police Commissioner, as Director of Counterterrorism Policy and Planning, and as Intelligence Research Specialist, Level 2, so help me God. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I will say this, right? It's going to be very tough for her to relate to a boots-on-the-ground police officer. She's obviously been spoon-fed. Straight out of college, she was immediately put in leadership positions. She's always been in a position of hierarchy within her tenure, within the police department, sanitation. Her experience in government has always been at the top of hierarchy. So she can't relate to someone that's boots on the ground making $100,000 a year as a billionaire heiress who's never actually had her boots on the ground also. I will say her speech is pretty well laid out. She speaks well. She has nice poise, a nice disposition, just as we saw with Key Chan Sewell. But presentation is not enough just to be a leader. Again, this is going to be the telltale signs we're going to see right away. Once she starts as police commissioner, if she doesn't start to make moves with the chiefs of the upper echelon of the police department, then it's an epic fail right away. Because she's saying, let's bring it back to the noble undertaking. Right now, the police department is far from noble. You know, I watched and I put it out on Twitter and I put it out on Instagram. Robert Boyce, a couple of months ago, former chief to the police department, who was also an ABC News anchor, police expert. He stated that Ed Caban had to step down immediately, that the appearance of the corruption probe was not good for the police department, and that Ed Caban should step down immediately. But why does that apply to mayors? Eric Adams is under indictment. Why doesn't Eric Adams have to step down? And if that's the case, there's other members of the upper echelon that had their phones taken that are part of this probe. Why are they still there in their position? So that's my question for Jessica Tisch. She said we need to go back to the noble undertaking. If that's the case, as soon as she starts as police commissioner, there should be some moves made immediately. Will we see that? I highly doubt it.
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. I really, after listening to her speech, I like the appointment even more. Because one, I could hear her faithfulness and I could hear that she's a righteous person. I think she is doing this undertaking out of the goodness of her heart. I think she will act within the best of her abilities. I heard her speak about how she sparred back and forth with Dermot Shea when he was the chief of detectives and the police commissioner, which I don't know if anyone realizes is she's basically saying, I'm not afraid to go up against the good old boys. I'm not afraid to go up against the people who are in charge of this department. And that's kind of what she was alluding to there, saying, I'm not afraid to push my weight around. And so I think, and that's one of the things that people work for her would say about her, is she wasn't afraid of the boys club. She didn't care to be in with them either. Is she perfect? No, nobody's perfect, and nobody's going to be perfect. But I got to say, I really, listening to her speech, I like her a lot more. I think that she's going to do, she sees what the problem is in the NYPD. She's acknowledging the lack of morale in the police department. And she said it right there. I want to return this profession to something where people want their children to become cops. And I can't get out of my head that she takes no salary. Totally different than Eric Adams. This ain't Eric Adams who driving around a beat up W and a beat up BMW a few years back and running around in dirty, cheap suits to now driving around and being chauffeured around wearing $10,000 suits. She doesn't have that same. This undertaking for her isn't the same as ours, as most of us, right? Where we're looking to. Yes, we're looking to create a legacy and be somebody in the New York City Police Department and leave a legacy in the New York City Police Department. But we're also trying to create generational wealth for our children, right? We're working very extremely hard for our children. Yes, we want public safety. She's in a completely different position, and she does not need the money whatsoever in any shape. She doesn't take a salary. She's worked for the city of New York for 17 years. Worked hard for the city of New York for 17 years and never made $1 of them. So to me, like I said, is she suited for it? No. Is she experienced enough for it? No. I'll agree with all that. Is this a political appointment? Yeah, but I like it. There's just something about it. I don't know what it is. I like it.
There's a couple of things I want to point out here. Excuse me. First of all, great comment by Crazy107. He says, "You're wrong, Eric. Police department is full of nobles at the top. Membership is a requirement for executive promotion." Yep, there's a lot of nobles at the top. The noble organization, which equates to nepotism, which equates to possible corruption, which is going on in the upper echelon of the police department. Tom, shout out to you. Coffee for the podcast, $1.99. Tom 10 says, "Juju loves Juja, but he smells like Chocha." Listen, Tom, thank you, brother. But you know what? I have to say this, right? She's trying to relate herself by talking about strong female leadership that she is inspired by for her own position of leadership. Now, I could speak on Joanne Jaffe. I worked in housing for many years, and she led with the iron fist. She was a tyrant. She created a hostile environment for many people in housing. Honestly, was a complete animal when it came to some of her employees. She belittled her employees. She was like a total sociopath. She would demean some of the people in housing. Just really, honestly, for to say that that's the leadership you want to follow, was there good things about Joanne Jaffe? Sure, there was some, but mostly she led as a complete tyrant. Honestly, really created a lot of hostility. Was a micromanager completely. I watched her demean different executive officers, different commanding officers. Honestly, a terrible human being. The way she treated people was absolutely insane. And I hope she's not going to treat people like that. And I will say this. The one good thing about this appointment, which I agree with you, so the fact that she was able to spar with other people and that she's not backing down is because of her family. The backbone and support that she gets, and also being in a position of wealth, she doesn't need the police department, which is why she would not be afraid. So the one good thing that could come out of this, because she has such a support system and has such extreme wealth, that she could push back on the upper echelon of the police department and not have to pander to anyone. She could be that upper echelon white male I've been asking to speak out. It could be a white female to speak out if she starts to see the atrocities with the police department. So time will tell. So when it comes to that, I do see it's a potential good appointment.
Yeah, so I think our biggest challenge is, I think we could all say, is actually facing crime, lowering crime in New York City. But I think the main challenge is proving morale, giving some consistency to the men and women in the New York City Police Department, and trying to be able to retain and recruit people, which this administration is not only been unable to do, this has been the worst administration as far as morale is concerned in the NYPD in history. There's no debate. It's not a debate for me. I don't care if you're wearing khaki pants, if your son's on the job and he's in a detail. Don't call me. Don't text me. I don't want to hear about it. I don't care. I'm talking soul numbers alone. Soul numbers alone. There has never been a point in history, in administration history, when this amount of police officers have resigned, vested, or retired. It's never happened. It's never been the amount of people that have left, resigned, or retired early, or retired than is happening under this current administration. It's never happened. We've had inspectors retire early. We've had captains retire early. We had lieutenants like myself retire early. Mine was a different situation. I was given 7 days, 0 due process, completely discriminated against religiously because of the color of my skin, because I'm a man. I was discriminated, and so were thousands and thousands of people. And that was direct work of this administration. So I don't care if that John Shell was potentially a cop. I wasn't a good one to me. Doesn't matter to me. It's not up for debate. This is the worst administration ever. As far as morale's concerned for the NYPD, as far as retaining, recruiting, yeah, they've been able to get some people, but I mean, people need jobs, right? There's always young kids that looking for work, but they lose as quick as they get them, as fast as they lose them. So terrible. So I think those are her big things. Politically, I think the big problem that she's going to have is New York City is a sanctuary city. Right? Eric Adams said New York City under an Eric Adams administration will remain a sanctuary city. Eric Adams said that the police department should never be in a position to harm undocumented immigrants. Eric Adams in October of 23 stated the official position in New York City is the border should remain open. Right? And then after Trump's election win, last week, Eric Adams, for the first time since Eric Adams' mayoral run, since he's been the mayor, he said, we need to close the border. So, I think, Darwish just said that she's on Fox News. I'll try to find that interview, but I think that's her biggest hurdle right now. But I do think that Eric Adams is going to shift his entire political ideology. I think that we're watching it happen. I think that speech showed it to you. Do you think that Eric Adams is going to switch his stance on cooperating with ICE?
There's no doubt about it. Absolutely. Absolutely. He's going to twist his failure into a success. I guess, Eric Adams is going to say that, hey, it was a sanctuary city. We believed in open borders. We believed in helping people out. And what he's going to say is, if I had, I don't know what's in his head, but what makes sense politically, what he's going to say, I believe, say we've exhausted at that point. Now we have to close our borders because we just can't handle it anymore. So that would be the great opportunity, and say now under Trump's leadership, we can close the borders. So I clearly see that he will start to work with ICE. I think it's going to be a complete stance for the police department. You're going to see John Shell, the upper echelon of the police department, say, hey, we're now actually coordinating with our federal partners in comparison to before, saying that they can't. You're going to see a complete different stance because that's what they are. VSS Ventura's, shout out to you, brother. $5 for the podcast, coffee and donuts. He says, Jaffe was horrid, but Solano was worse. A perfect example of two brain cells firing off enough on test day to advance in promotions. Absolutely. Jaffe was a horrible human being. Solano was a complete nut. The guy would take my memo book and stand there with it for an hour and go line through line. Didn't care about actual police work, just insane. She promoted him without having a commander because he was getting pushed around by other commanders because he would create such hostility every time he came to a precinct. Never talked about real police work. Just something wrong with him. If you remember years ago, Solano was in the paper about his promotion. Supposedly, he ran when there was a shots fired. He was also in the paper, another inspector that was caught, cross-dressing, that they were both promoted. Just real, just not exemplary people for the police department. I don't think that Jessica Tisch should associate herself with Joanne Jaffe. Absolutely not. I hope that's not her style. I'm hearing from some people that were sanitation. I did hear some rumors and some scuttlebutt that she was a little bit of a tyrant also. I don't know if that's true. It doesn't coincide with her appearance just now in her speech, but I am hearing that. And if she believes that Joanne Jaffe was a good position of leadership, this could be a problem.
So I agree with you. I think that Eric Adams is going to back off of his stance. I don't think he's going to get in the way. So there's a couple of things, right? We talk about sanctuary city. States and cities do not have to really dictate their policy on what they're going to enforce. The federal government cannot force their hand on what they're going to enforce. That is how this country's set up, right? States have the rights, not the federal authority. However, you cannot interfere with the federal government. If there's immigration laws on the books, so you cannot say, you know what, you can't come into my state and enforce federal law. You can't do that. That's illegal. You also can't break law because you're a state. You can't break the law. You can't harbor illegal aliens. You can't fund illegal aliens. You can't conceal them from federal authorities, which is what these cities are doing. And we've spoken about this before. We've actually did a whole podcast on how it breaks law. We gave you the U.S. codes that it did break law well before the appointment of Tom Homan. So we spoke about all that. So yeah, sanctuary cities do violate federal law, and they violate it because of their actions, not because of their inactions. There have been some, I believe the Mayor Johnston of Denver, who actually said he's willing to go to jail and he will not allow the federal government to work within his city. So I think it's going to be some turbulent times in America. I don't think New York's going to be the one, though. I just don't. But let's listen to what Tom Homan has to say here. I think, like I said, I don't think Jessica Tisch is going to be in this scenario, regardless of what she said on Fox News. I think some of the issues politically, she's going to have to fold on. And I think her family will have her fold on too, because I think that, you know, we're going to want a good working relationship with the federal government. And honestly, it's for the betterment of New York City. If you're the police commissioner, you're going to have to want to see criminals who have came here to prey on people be deported. I don't, if you're going to get in the way of that, then hey, here it is. But here's what Tom Homan had to say about I believe he was speaking about Mayor Johnston in this interview.
Tom, you heard this mayor out there in Colorado. I want to get your reaction to it, and I want you to be clear about who has jurisdiction: the federal government or state and local governments. And if you're a sanctuary state or city, are you breaking the law?
You're absolutely breaking law. All you have to do is look at Arizona versus U.S. You'll see these breaking law. But look, me and the Denver mayor, we agree on one thing: he's willing to go to jail. I'm willing to put him in jail, because there's a statute. It's Title 8 United States Code 1324 III, and what it says is it's a felony if you knowingly harbor and conceal an illegal alien from immigration authorities. It's also a felony to impede a federal law enforcement officer. So if we don't want to help, that's fine. He can get the hell out of the way. But we're going to go do the job. President Trump has a mandate for American people. We got to secure this country. We got to save American lives. And I find it shocking that any mayor of a city would say, President Trump's been clear, we want to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats. I find it hard to believe that any mayor or governor would say they don't want public safety threats removed from their neighborhoods. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on in Denver, but we're going to go and we're going to fix it. If he don't want to fix it, if he don't want to protect his communities, President Trump and ICE will.
No, that's a leader. That's a leader that's willing to be tough. And that is a great opportunity for Eric Adams to say, hey, you know what? We have to close the borders. We have to work as a sanctuary city. We can't violate the law. This is the position of the Trump administration. So it's easy for Eric Adams now to make this political adjustment, which I think is amazing by Eric Adams. Had a complete different stance. He's MAGA Eric. He's going to see a complete different stance at this point. But that's a leader that actually cares about America. John, you and I talk about appointments by Trump right now that are kind of questionable. This is what may be his pitfall for his administration. But this appointment right here, I like this appointment.
Oh yeah, no, I think that this is a great appointment. I like Tom Homan a lot. I think this is a guy that wants to do his job. I think he's telling you he wants to do his job. He fully understands his job, which a lot of people today don't. you know. So, you know, I like I said, I think Trump's challenge always is who he has around him. I think was my biggest knock on him his first term. He had a lot of weak, cowardly people who worked behind the scenes around him his first term, and I think that he's bringing a lot of questionable people around him now. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I supported him. I don't regret voting for him at all. And like I said, nobody's going to be perfect. I never said that Donald Trump's going to be perfect. He's going to solve your problems. He's not my savior. He never was. He's a man. I think that you're going to see Trump do a lot of good things. I think this is a good thing. I think removing public safety threats out of this country and securing our borders should not be a partisan issue. This should not be a Democrat-Republican issue. This should be, I want to be an American. Yeah, get criminals who are here illegally out of this country. I don't even understand how this is a talking point for debate at all. And I think that's what Trump needs to do. He needs to focus on fixing our international issues, trying to work on world peace so we don't end up in World War III, like what seems like is being accelerated before he gets in. Try to work on not having that happen. He needs to fix the economy, bring down inflation, and he has to secure our borders and get the people that don't belong in this country out of this country. He's not sitting there saying he's going to deport the fruit lady and he's going to send Tom Homan in and they want the police department to get someone on a fruit cart and send them out. I don't think that's what they're talking about here, and they haven't spoke on that. Public safety threats need to be removed. This is just common sense. I don't even understand how this is a talking point at all. So a lot of rumors coming out about the New York City Police Department. There's a rumor about an executive officer in the 7-9 and the commanding officer of PSA 3 getting into a physical altercation. We have too many details on it to really tell you exactly what happened, other than it allegedly there was an altercation between the CO of PSA 3 and the XO of PSA. And the XO of the 79th precinct. Some rumors were it's over a gun collar. Some it's over a domestic. Some have the executive officer of PSA 3 being modified. Some have the CO of PSA 3 being suspended. I don't know. I don't know what's right, what's wrong. I think it's funny. I think that I'm shocked that they were suspended by it, because we saw Tariq Shepard, whoever he is. I know he appointed himself a 3-star chief, because I still don't remember that ceremony or seen the orders. But I think he officially is the Deputy Commissioner of Public Information. We heard that he allegedly put his hands on Tom Donlin right before Tom Donlin was removed as the interim police commissioner, and there was some type of altercation there, and absolutely nothing happened to him. So I don't know. I don't know. What do you think when you hear this? I mean, right now it's a rumor. It's alleged. It's unconfirmed, because of this. We've gotten it so many times in so many different forms. I don't know what's real or what's not real. I know that something happened.
So my phone has been going nonstop with different accounts of what happened. So I don't know which one to believe. Some are saying it was over a gun collar. Apparently, most of the accounts say it was over a dispute, a family dispute that became a collar. There was a gun collar involved, and then it was whether the 7-9 XO said it's their collar, and the PSA 3 CO said it was their collar. I don't know exactly what happened, but I can tell you this: it shows the state where the job is at right now. I don't think they should be disciplined at all. If Tariq Shepard could put his hands on the police commissioner, former police commissioner Tom Donlin, then there's absolutely no laws within the department. I had put a tweet out to the rank and file at the time when that was alleged to happen, that Tariq Shepard put his hands on Tom Donlin. I said, listen, at this point, you don't have to listen to any of your your managers, anyone that's in a position of supervision. If Tariq Shepard could put his hands on Tom Donlin, then it all goes out the window. I don't know exactly what happened. First of all, I think it's stupid. I think these guys should be acting like professionals, but it shows the state where the job is at right now. Absolutely ridiculous. If these guys are fighting over a collar, then we got some real problems going on in the police department. But, John, you and I spoke about this. At least they're arguing over work and not arguing over someone being in a picture. But it really does show the state of the job. And the job is just completely met with power right now. It's absolutely ridiculous. These guys are acting like children, if that's the case. But, you know, if you want to have an argument behind closed doors, fine. But in front of your people, you know, it just there's absolutely no accountability. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, so, you know, like when Eric Adams defended the altercation between Donlin and Shepard, he's like, you know, this is a high, you know, there's a lot of emotions. This is public safety. And we were like, yeah, I can see if it's something, you know, something's going on, something's happening. You guys are fighting over positions in a picture. Like, that's not what that's what you're concerned with. These emotions are running high. You know, I've dealt with it a lot. I'm sure you have dealt with it a lot as SOL, as a crime sergeant. You know, I've dealt with it a lot where I'm not there, whatever it is. It's a holiday. I'm somewhere else. I had to do a day tour for whatever reason. And then my guys are calling me like, yo, I just got this guy. He just robbed somebody, robbery perp, career perp, and they're trying to steal the collar from me. And now you got to go to bat for you guys, which rightfully so, right? Like, why should people steal arrest from your guys? So for those of you that are listeners, what happens in the NYPD is there are people that are glory hounds that want to take arrests from people that they never made. They had no part in. Once the guy's in handcuffed and all the hard work's done, they want to just put their name on the online and then go through and then get all the awards or whatever, the praise for doing so. So unfortunately, that's a reality. There's so many glory hogs. They hide information. They attempt to steal collars, you know, so that maybe one day they could bolster themselves to be a deputy commissioner and say how many gun arrests they made when they actually weren't on the scene for them or actually even made them, or robbery collars, burglary collars. So oftentimes, you know, somebody would be slighted by that scenario. You know, you'd feel slighted, like, wow, I just risked my life. I put this guy in handcuffs. I'm the apprehending officer, so I'm going to be the one that's going to court for all this. And this guy's just going to take it and put his name on it and not really do any work other than sign off on the thing. And then he's going to get the credit for it. So this has traditionally happened a lot in the New York. I don't know how much it happens now in the New York City Police Department, but this was like an everyday occurrence when me and Eric were cops, right? Under the broken windows theory of policing, height of anti-crime, height of impact, this was something that happened. This was this was a fight you were going to have. If you were a crime sergeant, if you were fighting with the squad, you were fighting with patrol, you were fighting with the XO, you were fighting with the CO to stand up for your guys who actually made the arrest. You were going to, now, am I talking physically? No, but you were going to have a lot of arguments. There was going to be a lot of verbal talk. Me as a police commissioner, as a mayor, if I see that my guys are getting into it over, now nobody should ever put their hands onto it, on each other. You should be a professional. You should be able to maintain your composure. If you can't maintain your composure with your peers, how could you maintain your composure with civilians out in the street? But I understand that this is one of those high times where tempers will flare. So I would give this is the scenario I'd give leniency to, not you're getting into a fight over photos.
Spot on, brother. I agree with you. Absolutely. Over a picture, absolutely ridiculous. Listen, we've been involved in, I was involved in this plenty of times. Let's be honest, John. There's just some straight bullies out there. I've had plenty of times my guys were in situations, run after a perpetrator. They make a great gun collar. And then, because we were in housing, maybe the 4-0 precinct or the 4-2 precinct, some boss steps in and somehow says it's their collar. You know, maybe I'm not there. Maybe I'm on vacation or I'm, and the guys need someone to step in and fight for them. Or there were plenty of times maybe I was working in a different part of the precinct. I was in the 4-2 precinct and my guys had a collar in the 4-0 precinct and there was a problem. You know, in some battles you have to pick and choose. Sometimes I was in a position where I was able to fight for them, but it never got physical. It absolutely should get physical. You're right. If you can't control yourself, you can't control your composure, how are you going to deal with the public? Absolutely. But yes, you have to stand your ground, of course, and fight for your men, because a lot of these times, these guys are looking to you, because there are some bullies out there who will take that collar from them because they're glory hounds. And you know what? Sometimes we would fight for it. Sometimes we'd fight. And there was times, you know what? Listen, let them have this one. Let them have this one, because the next ones, believe me, we're not going to share with them. So you know what? You win the battle today, but you're not going to win the war. So you have to pick and choose and know which ones to fight. But to get physical, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's why I always had a problem. I said, there's plenty of people in the police department, they're always willing to fight with each other, but they're afraid to put their hands on an adversary or a perpetrator. That's a problem.
Yeah, so I mean, when we get more details, we'll report on the facts of that. But right now, I think the only thing we know is that the XO was modified. I think that's the only thing that I've seen. I haven't seen the CO was suspended. I don't know why it was. We don't even know that the XO was modified for that reason. So I don't really think there's much we could talk about there other than, there's a problem in the New York City Police Department. There truly is. There's a problem with morale in the New York City Police Department. There is an exodus that has been occurring in the New York City Police Department for over 3 years. We talked about the spiral. Why that is, I don't know. I've made the assertion that this was a layoff, that, this is all being done on purpose, and then this is a layoff to lower the payroll because the city's collapsing. I've also made an assertion, and sometimes I feel that it's part of their agenda, whether it be the 30-30 agenda to get 30% of women in policing by 2030, or it's to push forward this diversity, equity, inclusion agenda based upon race. I don't know. But there's a big problem in the New York City Police Department. There's an exodus that's been ignored in the media. Every now and then it rears its head, and then it comes out. People talk about it for 2 days. It goes away. Nobody talks about it again. But still, people are leaving in droves. Experienced officers, good people that by all means should still be working in the New York City Police Department. Myself and Eric included. I didn't want to leave. Eric didn't want to leave. I'd still be there right now. I'd be there past my 20 year. I would be a captain right now. So would Eric. So I'm not something that I planned on going ahead. And I think, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and there's hundreds of officers like myself and Eric who continue to leave the NYPD each day, that you're like, wait, why aren't these guys still working? Why are these guys not out there on the streets of New York City? Like, why are they not there? So, there's an exodus that's occurring, and there are big problems in leadership. Is Jessica Tisch the answer? I don't know. We'll see. She's not. Is she battle tested? No, but we're gonna see how she handles battle soon enough.
Yeah, exactly that. Will she be the voice of reason? And will she understand a scenario like this? Right. I think that's where you and I are given a fair assessment. For Tariq Shepard to put his hands on Tom Donilon over a picture is the most ridiculous thing. First of all, that's the police commissioner. That should be totally sacred. That's the police commissioner. Has some respect. But when an incident like this should get involved to the point where the commanding officer and the executive officer put their hands on each other, absolutely not. There is one thing I do like about it. It is nice to see that the commanding officer and this executive officer are advocating for their men. Was it purposeful? In the manner that they did it, was it right? No. But at least we are seeing some guys that are advocating for their men. I don't know who was right, who was wrong. I received different rumors. I saw Sal Greco, our brother, put it out. I didn't put it out because I'm not sure which one to believe. There's so many different rumors that we've heard. But the point is, it shouldn't get to the point that there's hands-on. The amount of unprofessionalism we see stemming through the department, it comes from the upper echelon. That's the problem. It's the leadership. How could this XO be modified when Tariq Shepard was completely given a pass for putting his hands on Tom Donilon, which I think is far worse than this XO and the CO in the heat of a moment with a gun arrest. They're advocating for their men, and it got physical. I don't know how physical it got. I heard it was a brawl. I don't believe that. I don't believe it was a brawl. I'm sure if this XO and the CO were putting their hands on each other, I would assume, excuse me, I'm a little under the weather today. I would assume the cops got involved immediately to intervene. So, I do think that the story is a little bit embellished, but again, it shows the state of where the job is at right now. And there's some real problems stemming to the department.
Yeah, 100%. Danny Holkauer. Danny was a fired sanitation worker. He was fired non-disciplinary. New York City kid, grew up in New York City, still lives in New York City currently. He was terminated by the New York City Police Department. He's part of the Garvey lawsuit. They actually won in the court of law. They beat, and the mandate that Eric Adams enforced was deemed arbitrary and capricious, illegal. They were ordered to return back to work, to be restored with full back pay over 2 years ago. Until today, Danny Holkauer remains unemployed by New York City and sanitation. So Danny Holkauer weighs in. He says, I spoke to people who worked for DSNY for decades, Department of Sanitation in New York, for decades, since the 80s. Under Tish, this has been the most dysfunctional administration they have ever had. So that's what sanitation, that's coming out from sanitation. So let's see. We'll see what happens. We're gonna see those battles, Danny. Keep fighting the good fight. Big shout out to Freedom Family, Teachers for Choice, Bravest for Choice. They were out in front of our favorite councilman, Lincoln Ressler's office yesterday. He will not sign on to Reso 5 to restore terminated workers like Danny Holkauer to their position. So Lincoln Ressler refuses to sign on that. So they held a little event in front of Lincoln Ressler's office where they gave out turkeys to terminated workers because this is 3 years without them being able to get employment, and they're having a hard time finding new employment because they've been terminated by New York City for no reason. So they were giving out those turkeys, and expect a lot more of that. Justin Brennan and the rest of you who refuse to sign on to Reso 5, we're going to let New York know exactly who you are. So crazy stuff.
Well, we know exactly who they are. These are people that pander to the movement, and they change their stance at any point that's beneficial to them. Justin Brennan said the other day that congestion pricing is not right at this time. I thought it was quite interesting. He didn't say he doesn't agree with congestion pricing. He just said congestion pricing is not right at this time. So these guys they're really slick how they put themselves in the position that anytime they can change their point of view, not boxing themselves in. Again, I think that I'm completely against congestion pricing. But what Justin Brennan said was it's not right at this time. What do you think about Justin Brennan's stance on congestion pricing?
Justin Brennan, he's like Justin Brennan and Eric Adams. They say the right things sometimes. They say the right things sometimes. It's always double talk. Sometimes Justin Brennan's supporting the police. Sometimes he's directly against the police. It's the same thing with Eric Adams. They're from the same school. They took the same. They must have had the same debate classes. Same political science classes, because they're one and the same. They're one and the same. Just like Richie Torres, former councilman Richie Torres. Same thing. This was funny. I was cracking up with this yesterday. Everybody's jumping on the Richie Torres bandwagon. Blood on your hands. Bronx Democrat politician blasts Hochul and Adams administration for fatal rampage. He says during his incarceration, Raymond Rivera was transferred to the psychiatric unit of Bellevue, where he assaulted a corrections officer. Not only did the state and city fail to punish Rivera, the city released Rivera for good behavior. Rivera went on to stab 3 innocent New Yorkers to death in a homicidal rampage. So, Justin Brennan and Eric Adams, Richie Torres, they must have all took the same political science, right? Because now Richie Torres has common sense. 2020, he wanted to fundamentally transform not only the New York City Police Department, but he wanted to fundamentally transform the criminal justice system. And he has. Congratulations. So if blood's on Hochul's hands, if blood's on Adams' hands, blood's on your hands, Richie. Blood's on your hands. But this is how easy it is to manipulate people. And Justin Brennan, Eric Adams, Richie Torres, they all know that. They prey on low information people. It doesn't matter if you're conservative or you're a liberal or you're a Democrat or you're a moderate. Whatever you are, If you're low information, these are your politicians, because they're going to say something. You're not going to remember what they said 3 years ago or 4 years ago. You're not even remember what they said 2 weeks ago. Sometimes you don't even pick up what they said in an exact press conference where they're flip-flopping. But here you go. Here's another perfect example of it. This is front cover of the Post, putting Richie Torres out here like, yeah, he's going to be the savior in New York City now. It's like, come on, man. This dude, if blood's on Adams' hands, if blood's on Holz's hands, blood's on Richie Torres' hands. If congestion pricing is Kathy Holz's fault, then it's Eric Adams' fault and it's Justin Brannon's fault, because they all supported it as well. It's an absolute joke.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's quite funny, right? I've been laughing lately. All the people that have been behind Richie Torres at this point saying Richie Torres wants to be tough on crime. Richie, right? Exactly. I mean, they think the same thing. Richie Torres is the same Democrat who's been part of what I've been saying about the Munchausen syndrome. These guys create the problems. Now they want to treat the symptoms. All these Democrats are part of the same playbook, but now they want to put themselves in a position. They're all changing their stance. They're completely manipulating what they said before, and they're making their failures as success. Right? They're saying, look at all these failures right now that he was in psychiatric system. We need to do something about it. Hey, you're also a part of the same you were part of this problem that we've got to this point, Richie Torres. Same problem. Richie Torres, Justin Brandon, Eric Adams, they've all now positioned themselves in a different movement so they could be part of this administration going forward. Absolutely ridiculous. No, Richie Torres, we know exactly who he is. Looks like someone wants to run for mayor here. That's what I see.
Yeah, mayor or governor. Like he hasn't decided yet. He hasn't decided yet what he's coming out. So this article comes out, and I think it's just another highlight of incompetence and mismanagement in the Eric Adams administration. I don't think we need to go too deep into the article, but basically, New York NYPD detectives are finding more reasons to retire early. And one of that is the amount of overtime that they've been receiving. Some of them have been getting 60 hours a month. Some have been getting 100 hours a month. And they've made money that they'll probably never be able to make again, not only because they'll more than likely not be able to get that amount of overtime, they're not going to be able to physically or mentally do that amount of overtime. What do you think about this? Like during the height of an exodus inside of the NYPD, what some refer to as a death spiral, an unrecoverable death spiral, the NYPD management actually created another factor other than morale, other than the outside factors traditionally related with policing, like poor mental, physical health, as a reason to retire. They've created this new thing like, well, we've paid you so much money that your pension's never going to be higher than this point if you don't retire right now. What do you think that says about the NYPD?
Well, it looks like to me, I mean, if the NYPD is really in bed with the enemy, which is the unions, which I think they are, we're probably going to see the unions advocate for Tier 2A much more. Excuse me. I wouldn't be surprised if the upper echelon of the police department has Eric Adams consort with Kathy Holzer to get 2A actually passed, because this management with overtime, we see how bad it's so mismanaged that now they're in positions that they have to retire, right? Because your pension is based on your last 12 months. According to Tier 2, right? If you're Tier 2A, then you have the ability to use the best 3 years. But right now they're in a position, it's all timing, to use their last 12 months, right? Not your last year, your last 12 months. So absolutely they're in a position that they have to retire because of the mismanagement overtime that we see. I'm sure that lieutenant who made over $400,000, I'm sure she's going to retire or have it 3/4. I highly doubt she would stay another year unless she can make $500,000. And that, we know it's pretty much impossible. The spotlight is on her.
Yeah, so it's just, again, it just shows that their inability to properly manage anything. Like there's an exodus. Instead of stopping the bleeding, you created more reasoning for them to leave. Was it done on purpose? I don't know. Potentially. I don't think it is. I think it's been done. I think it's been done by accident. I just think, again, I consistently say it, I don't think we have forward-looking people sitting in places of management currently in the NYPD and in New York City. And again, when these people leave, it leads to even more. It's going to lead to even more amounts of overtime. So if when they seek to stop the overtime, they're going to create more overtime. So it's always funny, like whatever they fight against, they actually create more of, because you'll just cause more people to retire. I think when we look at it though, tier 2A is in its last stages and they want to tier 2A out. So it potentially could be done on purpose. This potentially could have been done on purpose, because I consistently say, when you look at the mandate, who they went after, I think you're going to see some factors when you get the numbers. And that's why they have not been quick to release those FOIAs requests to anybody. It's because it's going to clearly show that there were people that were in tier 2A were overwhelmingly denied. Roman Catholics were overwhelmingly denied. Christian males were overwhelmingly denied exemptions. And that, I believe, was done on purpose. So let's get into the article a little bit. So hundreds of veteran NYPD gumshoes are leaving the force, stoking fears that cases and criminals will fall through the cracks, the Post has learned. The NYPD saw 370 detectives retire in 2023. And 422 so far in 24, a 14% increase, NYPD data shows. The number of detectives has shrunk 30% from about 7,000 in 2001 to 5,500 this year. What do you think about that, Eric?
I think the department is hemorrhaging, but I think they don't care. I think that the department is looking to lean on artificial intelligence. I've been saying that for over a year right now. I said back over a year ago, I'm like, John, look at this. Look at all this artificial intelligence. They're trying to replace the human element. I think they don't care right now. They're looking for technology, looking for artificial intelligence. I think that they don't care at all. And it's almost looks like it's done on purpose. We've been saying that. The mass excess of the vaccine mandate, we have people get pushed out. The emasculation of police department. We have what's going on right now with the overtime. It's every indication that this is all done by design. And also looking to replace people with, with this whole DEI movement. It really changes the face of the police department. I think we have a major problem. I think it's hemorrhaging. We lost veteran police officers, veteran detectives. And it's exactly what I said. These police officers are out doing overtime, for presence in the subway. I'm sure the cases are also the cases are probably put on the side right now because they're worried about omnipresence. So I'm sure it's not just overtime. I'm sure that they're actually, I wouldn't be surprised, and I've been saying this a long time, I'm sure there's people in a squad right now probably push their sector car sometimes to help out and not working on their cases. I wouldn't be surprised if we have people in the 7-9 squad that would be pushing this 7-9 sector at them with the hemorrhaging of the police department. So this is a major problem right now. Major problem. Speaking of, I was just curious also, do you happen to have the article by Tina Moore? I thought it was a great title where she put out that Jessica Tisch's first responsibility is to be honest about crime, which actually alludes and shows that crime is way up and that this administration has been gaslighting the public. So I thought it was a great article by Tina Moore. You have it?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up
good.
I'm talking about this. I'll find it. But yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that here that I think is really like that we need to talk about. One, they say that the number of detectives shrunk about 30% from 7,000 in 2001 to 5,500 this year. I think those numbers are completely skewed. I think, what New Yorkers don't understand is the rank of detective has been so watered down. How many of those people are actually trained investigators or actually are partaking in doing investigations, right? When you see kids doing anti-crime, and traditionally when me and you were cops, there were plenty of great cops that should have had detective shields, FIOs that should have had detective shields and didn't, right? Because FIO, I believe, is an investigative position. I even think anti-crime was never considered an investigative position until currently. Now, all of a sudden, it's considered an investigative position. So we see a lot of people, community affairs gets detective shields now. ESU gets detective shields now. And I'm not knocking the work. I think ESU does great stuff, and I think they should get paid higher. But I think it skews when we talk about detectives, because they say there's 5,500 detectives. There's not actually 5,500 actual working investigative detectives. The number of that is so much lower. And what really is that number, and how many of those people are we really losing? That's this number is skewed. So it's a lot worse than what's even being shown here. So they're saying the number of detectives has shrunk 30%. I think that number is way higher.
Absolutely, right? Because it's a matter of what these detectives are doing. I mean, listen, we see some promotions that completely waters down the detective shield itself. How many detectives are actually doing investigative or intelligence work is far different than the numbers of their manpower. Because we've seen detectives that have been promoted from the Personnel Bureau. They're part of different fraternal organizations. Some are president of fraternal organizations, and they're given a shield. They've never done any actual police work. So it just completely waters down the shield. How many detectives are out doing investigations? How many detectives have actually closed out a case? How many are doing intelligence work? The FIOs, I totally stand behind. I think they should be getting detective shields. They do investigative work. Their work is completely pinnacle. It's key for what goes on between the precinct and also the Intelligence Bureau to actually helps retrieving illegal firearms, doing search warrants. But khaki pants run around, should they be getting detective shields? Absolutely not. Excuse me. A complete insult and just slap in the face to all the anti-crime guys that will run around in plain clothes for years. But again, I've been saying this for years. I have to come up with, there has to be some type of corporal shield or some other shield, in separation, dichotomy from the detective shield itself. If you're a detective, you should be an investigative role, a role of intelligence, absolutely. So the numbers that they have are completely skewed. How many of those detectives are actually working full duty, doing investigations? I'm sure the numbers are far less than what we see. It's a major problem, John. Major problem that's going on in the police department. How many detectives are actually doing squad work? These squads are completely bogged down right now. I think, I'm sure. I'm curious of what their case rate is right now. What is the closure rate of their cases right now? It can't be good.
It can't be. And then, I'm not even going to read further into this article, but a Bronx homicide detective, this is him pictured here, Robert Klein, 45, has found himself working more overtime than ever on the subway. Why is a homicide detective in uniform on the subway? Why would a kid that's in whatever the khaki pants unit's called, why would they be doing overtime in their assignment? But we have a Bronx homicide detective who's not doing overtime in his assignment, right? Why do we have guys in working major cases like this gentleman not getting overtime, partaking in their job? If anybody should be standing out, it should be the rookies, right? They shouldn't be making overtime in their positions while we're sending squad guys out, while we're sending people who are actually handing cases out. I'm sorry. This is complete mismanagement. This is completely wrong. This, again, just shows how inept Eric Adams' appointments have been. This should never have been allowed to happen. It's disgusting. It actually is anti-public safety. This has diminished public safety. You're 100% right, Eric. If we look at their caseloads, if you look at that case closure rates, they're going to have to skew those numbers good because there's going to be something seriously wrong. Before we get into the next article, we're not getting paid for this at all. We're not doing this. This isn't a link to our show. Nothing. We're just going to do this out of the goodness of our hearts because, and again, we have a lot of questions around why these are now the pants that you must wear. We said it's wrong. We said investigation should be done. But these are the New York City Metro. Are these the 511 strike pants? Are these the NYPD authorized ones? I'm not sure. But if they are, 511 currently is having, ensure, if any of you guys go to buy this, ensure that these are the NYPD authorized pants. I'm not 100% sure. I believe they are the 511 ripstop pants. I believe these are the ones that it came out that said that these were the only ones you could wear now, the only type of cargo pants NYPD officers could wear now. And we said how they're $78, and all of a sudden, proprietary, a proprietary pair of pants is being determined that these are the only style of pants you could wear. Before you go out and purchase it, make sure these are the NYPD authorized one. But if they are, and it looks like they are, they're on sale right now from $78 to $18.79. So again, we don't have any deal with 511. Maybe we should, maybe we should get one. But for right now, it looks like there's a huge sale going on. Ensure that these are the correct ones. If they are, that's how you can get it. Go directly to 511's website for those you guys and girls that are still on the NYPD that like to wear cargos at details like I did. I always like to wear them at details. You have stuff to put some more pockets in. $18.79 down from $78.
You know what's funny? You're going to laugh, but I had cargo pants, but I hated them. Honestly, I think that I know people put stuff in their pockets. I think it looks terrible when you have these big-ass bulging pockets come out of your pants like that. I mean, it's cool if you want to put like a couple pieces of paper. I actually like the admin pants. I would even wear those out. I would wear the cargo pants, but I actually like the admin pants. I think they look better. Those actually were a little softer. You can move around. I don't like the cargo pants that were heavy. But when it comes to those 511 pants, the fact that it's a proprietary item, you should definitely look in. The appearance of impropriety is there. It doesn't look right to me. It's awfully strange that they're on sale for $18.79. That's a big sale. You know, I'm curious what's going on. Maybe they want to get rid of those pants as soon as possible before that investigation gets highlighted because we brought it up in this podcast. Looks very strange to me. It looks completely odd. Crazy 10-7. Shout out to you. Coffee and donuts, $9.99. I think this comment is spot on. Crumbs. Voluntary transit overtime was designed to get rid of what's left of Tier 2. Yeah, we were saying that. I agree. Tish will reconfigure the department and claim they only need $25,000 to run the department, claiming overstaffing. You know, we've been saying this for quite some time. We actually believe that there's probably $25,000 right now. I know they've been saying there's about $33,000. I think those numbers are pretty much impossible. I would say the numbers are probably about $25,000 right now. John, we were saying that $25,000 to $28,000. I would think that, especially with the mass exits that we've seen the past couple of years, we're not getting big recruitment classes. I would say we're probably at $25K right now if I had to put my money on it.
Yeah, I don't think we're, like I said, I don't think we're over 30,000 at all. I think it's somewhere between 25, 29. I don't think we're anywhere near 30,000. I think those numbers are completely skewed. Crazy. So where's this article? Let me pull up this next article. Thank you guys for joining us this morning. We got 527 people on the live chat. If you guys could just do us a favor, hit the subscribe button or share this out if you're on social media, repost the space. We appreciate it. We've been under a heavy shadow ban due to frivolous reporting of nonsense from haters on this on all of our social media platforms. So this is the article that Eric was talking about. This is coming in from Nicole Galinas. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch's top job. Be honest about New York City crime. Before we even get in, I mean, do we even need to read it? Let's really just talk about it. Like, what do you think about that title?
That's my point. I don't even think you need to read it. I think it's a great title. I think it sends a subliminal message. It says that the New York Post is aware that this administration has been gaslighting the public, changing their perception, changing their truth of what they actually see, what's going on there right now. You don't even need to see the data. We all know crime is up. You can feel it. You can see it. You can hear it. And that's a great message saying to the new police commissioner, your job if you really want to separate yourself from your predecessors and what's going on with Eric Adams, is to be honest about New York City crime. Be honest that crime is up, and how are we going to get crime down? What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think that we've done a great job, as well as Sam Antar and who's the other guy? Sam Antar and oh man,
Reza Chowdhury.
Reza Chowdhury, yeah.
Yep.
We've all done a great job at exposing the inadequacies, not the inadequacies, the misreporting of crime data by New York City elected officials and their appointed managers, using their own numbers. I think we've shown time and time again that, in fact, crime is not down. Crime has arbitrary time periods where it's been down in New York City, and it's had arbitrary time periods where it's risen in New York City. But New York City only talks about when crime arbitrarily goes down for short time periods. But when we look at Eric Adams' administration as a whole, when we even look at the last few years prior to even Eric Adams coming into office, crime is up significantly and has not came down at all. And I think, I think the title's spot on. Shout out to Nicole Galinas. I believe she's wow, that was weird. That just took us right out. That was weird. You still there, Eric?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that. What happened? It just took us right off.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't know. That was something. My Wi-Fi was good. It must have been something with StreamYard. That was weird.
Yeah, no, my Wi-Fi was good too.
Yeah, that was weird. All right, no big deal. We're back. So, so shout out to her, because I think that we can't fix problems that we don't identify. The rise in crime needs to be identified. And I think this is something that we always talked about, even under Ray Kelly, under all of the other previous police commissioners, is they were dishonest about the crime numbers. And they wanted to continue to drive crime down. They didn't, precinct commanders didn't want to report the crime they had when there were these spikes in crime in these short time periods. And it was weak, and it was stupid, and it didn't make any sense, and it was incompetent. And it was because crime trends. Crime goes up, crime goes down. If we're properly doing our job, though, over a year period, a 2-year period, 3-year period, crime will consistently go down if we're doing our job. We can't worry about the 7-day and the 28-day and, we got to beat the numbers from last year. No. We have to actually take the crimes, report the crimes that are happening, and solve those crimes and work to stop and prevent those crimes. If we do that, crime will go down. If we're fudging numbers and playing games, crime's going to go up. This administration has been the worst at doing that. Far worse than the Ray Kelly era.
I gotta laugh at Patrick Donahue always has some funny comments. Says, Eric is starting to sound like Ferris Bueller trying to convince his parents that he's too sick to go to school. Yeah, listen, I think that Jessica Tisch is actually in a very interesting position. She's in a position right now that she can actually be considered one of the best commissioners, because her predecessors are met with complete failures. Key Chan Sewell, as the much poise and distinction that she had, I think she was extremely professional. I think she had a great appearance. We never got to see her complete ability and her potential. She was never afforded that opportunity. Ed Caban was completely insignificant. He's under corruption probe. Tom Dowland, he was even more insignificant, and he's under a corruption probe. So she's in a position right now that if she does anything that's met with success or anything positive, she could be viewed as a fantastic police commissioner because of the position she's in. What's really going to be the telltale signs is when she gets, immediately when she's in office, is what she does with the upper echelon. If she starts to make some moves, she's going to show that she's in a position of power and also an ability to start to weed out potential corruption. Will she weed out the nepotism that's going on at the top? Will she weed out the potential corruption? I think her first test is going to be to start weeding out this problem of nepotism. If she does that, she's in a good position. But if you ask me, her appointment is also nepotism and political, right? It's nepotism with her family, the connection that her family has to politics because of their wealth. So again, we're back to the same drawing board. That's the problem that I see with this.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the one knock it's not the one, but that's another knock I'll give on Tish is I think this is the first time she's going to be looking at the crime numbers and having to understand them. And I think anybody could do that. I don't think you need to have been a cop or have boots on the ground to understand the crime numbers, but there's definitely going to be a learning curve with understanding them. So the same way the public is easily manipulated into their opinions on crime or how they perceive crime, I hope that Jessica Tisch is able to see through the data and understand the data. And I think that she has the capabilities to do that and understand that crime actually isn't down. People looking at this as a whole. They're not looking at the 20-day. They're not looking at the month. They're not looking at 7-day period. They're not playing games with, let's say if you just take out the pandemic years or if you just remove New York City from New York State's crime numbers, then actually we're doing great. It's like, no, New York City is part of New York State. And yeah, those years actually do count in New York City. So so before her being able to fix it, I think she has to understand crime first. If she's just going to read out what's been given to her, then expect more of the same. If she deep dives into the numbers and tries to understand crime, then she will be able to change this. I don't know that she's going to or she's not going to. Like I said, she's not battle tested, so we will see what's going to come out. But I think for right now, she already has done it where she's just read out the numbers. And I think for right now, we should expect more of the same from that right now, is that she's going to be putting numbers are going to be put in front of her. And she's going to tell you crime's down. We had crime decrease the last 10 months. And whatever Eric Adams has on those printed signs behind him, I think that's what we're going to hear from her. Could be wrong, but that's what I think.
Well, that comes into play also, right? When we talk about having your boots on the ground, not having that experience as a police officer, will she understand actually the crime side itself? Will it just be data to her? Or will those numbers actually be representative of people, real people, when we talk about public safety? Because it's one thing to look at these data sheets and just excuse me, just to see it's data. But every time we talk about data when it comes to crime, these are actual people that we're talking about. So I hope that she can have that perception. But only time will tell. Honestly, I don't think so. She seems to be an academic to me, intellect. I'm not sure if she'll be able to equate the data to actual real people.
Yeah. So, all right, listen, we're going on 2 hours. There's a lot more stuff that we could go on. I think it will take us forever to deep dive into all the stuff that happened over the last 3 days. We'll be back tomorrow. Eric, anything else you want to get into before we get out of here?
Hell no. I'm dying over here. My head feels like it's 100 pounds.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I fought through it. I want to thank everybody. I apologize if I sound terrible today, my friends and listeners. Thank God we took off yesterday, but I woke up today. My head felt like it was 150 pounds. I popped a couple of ibuprofen. I was able to fight through. So we'll wrap it up. We'll hit it tomorrow. Hopefully I feel better tomorrow. I'll pump myself up with some liquids today. 8:05 live Eastern time, and of course 5:05 Pacific time. I'll see you there. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. We appreciate all the coffee and donuts. Shout out to you.
All right, guys. Find us Unfiltered. Thanks for joining us this morning. We'll be back at you tomorrow, live 8:05.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. but who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.